Today's episode is all about your questions, business, life, all the things. Welcome to the Up in My Business podcast with me, Lex Lancaster, where you'll get an inside look at all things tech, business, and my life as a physical therapist turned digital operations expert. You'll hear all about my lessons as a business owner, the ins and outs of tech for your business, and more. From SEO, websites, and email marketing to automations, launches, and copywriting, I've got you. I'm so excited you're here. Let's dive in. As always, before we get started, I want to take a few moments to highlight Up in My Business's show sponsor, Jane App. Jane is a clinic management software and EMR designed to help you run your clinic and prevent no-shows. One of the most common reasons for no-shows is forgetfulness, so bolstering your communication is key to helping your clients show up for scheduled appointments. With Jane, you can create effective reminders that include appointment details and clear instructions on how to cancel and reschedule. You can also choose between a text, email, manual phone call, or a mixture of all three reminders depending on what works best for your clients. You'll love not having to remind your clients, and they'll love getting a little nudge about when their appointment is. If you're curious to learn more, head to jane.app/payments to book a demo with a member of the Jane team. You can also use my code LEX1MO. Again, it's LEX1MO over at jane.app/start for a 1-month grace period on your new Jane account. Welcome back to another episode of Up in My Business. I am recording this for you on Friday. If you are familiar with how my process is working as far as recording goes, I used to do this all on Sunday night, and now I'm just slowly bumping it back to Friday. So that way I have the weekend to essentially play with and not have to, sit down at my computer and record on a Sunday night. So it's Friday. As you're listening to this, it will be the first day of July, which is absolutely insane to me. I cannot believe that it's been half of the year is gone already. It's been great and fast and fun, and I'm really, really, really grateful. So happy July to you. If you're not familiar with my podcast, welcome. If this is your first episode, I have lots of different episodes about all things tech and business and yada, yada, yada. Feel free to go back and listen. If you're a seasoned listener, thank you so much for coming back. I obviously always appreciate when people are always coming back and listening and giving me feedback and telling me what they want to hear about next. And I just appreciate you. I am using today's episode. I'm going to go through life and business updates, but then I'm also going to then answer questions. I have a couple business tech SEO website type questions, and then I have some personal stuff. So I'm going to check right now because I did not check just before I started this episode to see if I had more. Perfect. Okay. I put a link for questions on my Instagram stories for both anonymous and word box ones. And I did the anonymous one because sometimes people don't want to ask questions because they might feel like it's intimidating or, I just want to remove that barrier. I don't particularly like anonymous questions because you can hide behind the anyway, you can hide behind it. And I think people can, I think I have a group of very amazing people in my audience, so I'm not worried about it. But someone had mentioned you might find that people might be mean to you, and no one was mean to me, so it's fine. But I decided to use it just so the opportunity was there. Okay, so life updates, nothing really crazy this week. Everything is just, I guess, June gloom is kind of gone. It's mostly sunny here, which is amazing. The weather is so good. It's very hot. Volleyball is very hot at this point. The sand is pretty warm by 11 o'clock to the point where we have to stop playing or use sand socks. We are playing in a tournament next Friday, so that should be fun. You'll be listening to this on Monday. So this weekend we're playing in a tournament on Friday, and really excited for that because it'll be super fun. To basically take all of Friday and hang with the volleyball crew and what have you, and also get a little competitive. So really excited for that. We're traveling. I mean, honestly, we're traveling a lot starting in July, it's like July, we're going to Pennsylvania for Christmas in July with Shantae's family. And then from September on, it's just like we're off on all over the place. So stay tuned for all of that jazz. But all the travel planned. Still have to book plane tickets to go home for Christmas, which plane tickets are a gazillion dollars at this point. So it is what it is. But plane tickets are wild. And I'm also like really bummed. I'll be honest. Like I have a Delta credit card for my business and I have one for my personal account. And Delta, like as much as they pride themselves on being like the best airline, I am pissed about the whole benefits thing with the credit card. Because they advertise that you get a companion certificate for whether it's a domestic flight, and then my business one gets me ones that are international. But anyway, you get companion certificates for flights. And they're like, no blackout dates. You can travel whenever you want. There's definitely blackout dates because I can't use the companion certificate for basically any of the travel that we're going on because I contacted the rep and they were like, well, flights are more expensive. So the fees add up when the flights are more expensive. So you can't use it then. And I'm like, so basically you're saying that there are blackout dates without you telling that there are blackout dates. So anyway, I'm currently deciding if I want to stay with my Delta credit card or not for my business and my personal stuff because I have miles, which are great, but I'm just like, do I actually want to use this card anymore? It's just so annoying when that's your, like you pride yourself on being the best. And then it's like, you try to use this credit card for what it's meant to be used for. And then you can't because it's like a hidden, you can't do this type of situation. But anyway, so there's that. Business stuff. The big thing is Blogging Bootcamp is open for enrollment. I will put the link to join in my show notes. As of right now on Friday, there's 2 spots left for the 2-day experience, which is Blogging Bootcamp plus the accountability day, the audit and accountability day. There are 10 spots left for Blogging Bootcamp. So I'm limiting seats because in Blogging Bootcamp, we're doing tech stuff. So I can't coach 50 people on a call for tech. It doesn't work out. So I am rolling with my max for the bootcamp day. So that way I know that I can help people with setup of tech on the back end. And then the audit and accountability day, that is going to be basically auditing blogs that are written by the people who attended the first day. And, you know, if you can't come live to the second day, I don't recommend registering because that's where the magic is. But I am really excited for that because I know that just from SEO school, I know what it's like to have your blog audited. And I also know from Lecturemind. So like a lot of mine and Shantae's clients through Lecturemind, we did blogging bootcamp essentially in Lecturemind. And the first audit of all of their blogs, like things need to be changed, things need to be added, things could be optimized. So I know what value that is. So yeah, if you are interested in joining, this will be the only time that I run it live. I don't like teaching at night more than I have to. And also the tech stuff is realistically the only thing that's going to change. And it won't change. So, because it's Google that we're setting up. So I don't plan on running this live again. I'm going to keep it as a pre-recorded course on my website. And the price will be drastically different. So if you're interested, I would recommend registering now. You're going to get the most stuff, the most feedback, live Q&A, what have you, as well as save a ton of money. So if you're interested, join. I'll put the link in the show notes. Looking at my list here, I think that's really it. The only thing that I wanted to go into, obviously, are your questions, business and personal. But I also want to I put up a thread. So I put up a thread because, and I think I talked about this somewhere else, but I think I'm struggling with how to approach this topic because I feel like it sounds kind of bitchy. Like, to be honest with you, it sounds bitchy, but also very direct. And, you know, I'm setting a boundary, right? So at the end of the day, I put a thread up about how I don't like when people bump their emails and their DMs. Like, and this is not for current clients. It's not for people who are actively working with me. It's genuinely just like people that are they're not actively working with me, but they contact me for whatever reason, whether it's like they need something, they need to book something, they have a question, whatever, right? And they email me, and then what annoys me, it's not like if someone sits in my inbox for 3 months and I never get back to them, please contact me. Like that's not your fault. Like, okay, something must have, I dropped the ball somewhere. That's on me. I apologize. But for when it comes to like someone messaging me and then bumping me that message and being like, hey, did you get my message? Whether it's in the same platform, so on Instagram or email, it drives me nuts. I'm like, and it's been like less than 24 hours or 48 hours, or like the first one came in on a Friday and then I'm not getting back to you until probably Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I don't even know. Maybe I won't get back until the following week. I get so bothered by it because I feel like it comes from a place of like everyone is always accessible. And there was a time in my life where I was like, it's 10 o'clock on a Saturday. Of course I'm going to answer your email. And now I'm like, it's 10 o'clock on a Saturday. Absolutely not am I answering your email. And if I do, I'm scheduling it for 8 a.m. on Monday to go out. So it's like, I do get really like up in arms about it. I think only because it sends that whole like immediately accessible message, and I don't let it bother me. Like, I'm not sitting here angry about it, but I'm just making a statement of it's annoying. I'm like, please don't do that. But it's like and no one really responded back of, anything negative to it. I think most people understand that. I think the hardest part for me is like, I want to be available for everyone all the time because my love language is helping people. And after learning my no, I just can't be, because if I'm available for everyone all the hours of the day, and also it would kill me, but also I have a retainer, and my retainer people are who I'm available for. So like those people, if they bumped me because I didn't answer them within 24 hours, they pay for that. So like they can do that and they should do that. But they're my retainer clients. So it's just like there's a separation there between active clients, not active clients. And, even if I'm on Instagram recreationally, I don't think that, or I know that I'm never setting an expectation that someone gets back to my DM immediately, right? Like, I think that sometimes there's this expectation set where that someone is posting a story or they're posting a post, they must be able to get back to all their DMs. And I'm like, no, I don't have that expectation for anyone. And so I think that's where the frustration comes on my end. I'm like, why would someone expect an immediate response, especially if you're not an active client? But anyway, that's just me being petty, I guess. But setting a boundary, that's me setting a boundary. Let's just figure it out. No one is immediately accessible all the time, unless like it's my parents, my family, and you're a retainer client. Otherwise, I'm like, I'll get back to you when I get back to you. I promise I'm not ignoring you. It's just I haven't had the time, energy, capacity, whatever to do it. So yeah. Okay, that's my soapbox for the day. I'm going to jump off of that now. Let's answer questions. So I'm going to start with the questions, and then I'm going to go into like the personal / I guess they're like all kind of mixed up though. So I'll just go down my list. So the first one was, how do I move my brick and mortar space from one state to another state? What do I need to do on my website? The easiest thing, so there's a lot of things that you might have to do. If you're focusing on SEO related concepts, in your geotagging your photos, you're going to have to redo all of your photos. If you have all of your pages laid out for SEO with location-based titles and tags, you're going to have to redo all of those. But the basics, you're changing your address, you're changing the map if you have an embedded map on there. You're making sure that anywhere you have your address listed, it is the new address. For a small period of time, you may want to put on your homepage, previously located in whatever. Now located in whatever. The other big thing is Google My Business, Yelp, Apple Maps. You have to change all your address on all of those things as well. So those are like the big ones, the big ticket ones. Making sure that Google My Business, Apple Maps, Yelp are corrected, and so is your website. And then if you're targeting SEO wise for that type of stuff, the list is honestly pretty long, but just focusing on making sure images are geotagged and titled accordingly. If you have location-specific pages, you're changing those to the new location. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about because you're not focused on SEO, just ignore all of that stuff and just focus on the Google Maps, Apple Maps, Yelp, any of your business listings, as well as wherever your address is on your website, you're changing that to the new address. The next question, ironically, is the same type of question, but we're moving to a new location. So same answer. And this is like within the same state. I know this person just moved from one location to another in the same town. So we're changing the address everywhere, making sure that's all up to date. We're changing the map location, of course. And then, I always say we got to double check all of our intake forms, all of our waivers, all of our legal policies. Wherever our address was listed, we have to make sure it's now changed. So that's my big takeaway for those two questions. Number 3, this one I'm going to try to answer. I think I know what this person's asking, but it might end up coming out to be a different answer. So displaying site links on a Google search. So the long and the short about Google is that Google doesn't understand your website sometimes, and you have to tell them how to understand it. So submitting your sitemap to something like Google Search Console is the first thing that you have to do. As far as displaying site links on Google, the sitemap should return back to Google all of the information that Google needs in order to display your website. And then that would be the first step. The second step is, of course, Google My Business, because if you don't have a Google My Business, it's tough for a local business to get any sort of visibility because the location is not necessarily attached with the business. And I think there's a few people, another person had said this as well, not displaying your address on Google My Business, because if you have a business that's technically operating out of your home and you're a local business, like you have a PT clinic or what have you inside your garage, you don't want to list your home address on there. But on Google My Business, you can hide your address and you can still have a town that you operate in. So you still get the local benefit of Google My Business. So either way, displaying site links on Google search, I'm assuming this is because Google is not actively reading your website, which, by the way, Blogging Bootcamp will teach you how to make this happen, because this is very normal, I'll say, in the internet, where Google has no idea you exist and Google has no idea that your website looks the way it looks unless you tell it. So we are going over that in Blogging Bootcamp for what it's worth, anyone who's curious, but just making sure Google is actually looking at your website with the sitemap and Google Search Console, and then making sure you have a Google My Business that links to your website and has the town that you're operating in set. Number 4, the difference between Google Ads and SEO. This is a really good question, and I don't think people understand that these are two different marketing avenues. So when someone thinks of SEO, you're getting found on Google. So one would think, okay, well, if I run Google Ads, it's the same thing as SEO. So why would I do both? However, this is wrong. So yes, it is the same system. Like Google Ads and SEO are both dealing with Google. But when we think about marketing avenues, it's two separate things. It's kind of like Instagram. So if we have Instagram, Google My Business, Instagram, Google Ads, SEO. Those are all 3 different avenues for marketing. And I think people get mixed up with Google Ads and SEO because Google Ads are paid and SEO is free. Those two things can go on together or separately. So when we think about that, if we're doing one, it doesn't mean we don't do the other, especially if you're running ads. So my push is always to make sure you have an organic strategy, aka SEO, before you throw ads behind it. Ads are freaking expensive. It's expensive, and if you don't do it right, you can really lose a lot of money pretty quickly. And not only that, but the more specific you get, the more expensive it is too. So my push is always, do the SEO route, do the free route before you're throwing ads on things, and also use ads very, use your brain when you're doing them. I think the biggest thing that I see is that people are like, I paid for ads, I got more patients, and now I'm just paying to get patients. And if I stop running the ads, I get no new patients. And I'm like, this is a problem. I want you to get patients without having to pay for ads. Like, that's obviously the goal. So SEO and Google Ads are 2 separate marketing routes. It's kind of like thinking about newspaper articles versus a mailer, like a little card that comes in the mail. Those are 2 different ways to market to people. Or if we're talking about mailers versus a commercial, those are 2 different ways to market to people. Just like Google Ads and SEO, those are 2 different marketing avenues. So they are different, and You can do both at the same time. You can do one alone. I never recommend just doing Google Ads. I would always recommend having that organic strategy, SEO, first before you run ads to things. All right. I did actually split these up into business and personal. So I have 4 things that I have 4 that I picked out. I couldn't do them all on the episode. I think that it would be a 90-minute episode if I did most of these and I talked as much as I want to talk about it. But I'm going to go through each one that I was asked. I'll do the quicker ones first. Someone asked or assumed, it was under my assumption, they assumed that I had siblings. And I said, yep, I have one brother. So I have one brother. He's 3 years younger than me. So I do have a sibling and we look almost identical. So if you were to shave both of our heads and put us next to each other, we are pretty much identical. It's actually quite funny. The face swap thing on Snapchat way back when, that was quite terrifying. I have a photo of that and it's actually terrifying. We're very similar looking. So I don't know what that says about me or him, but we look almost identical. The other one, someone said, what do you assume about me? They said that my desk is clean. I'm looking around my desk right now and I'm chuckling. My desk is clean when I want it to be clean. My desk is not clean right now. Like it's everywhere. I have like a mild, I don't want to say, I'm not diagnosing myself. I like when things are very straight and neat and tidy, but I also can sit here and have my desk be a complete mess. And right now it's a complete mess. So it's both and for me. It's not like something that prevents me from working. But if I am in a mood, sometimes I will just clean my desk. So yeah, it's not always clean by any means. It's actually quite a disaster right now. Then the last 2 that I'm going to answer today. Someone asked, I don't know what I'm going to actually pull the exact question up because it wasn't what I typed here. Someone said, what was the push to move across What was the push to move you across the country and how hard was it to pick up and go? I thought this was an interesting question. So there was no push to move across the country. Like that was a decision that I made. I actually was looking at moving to Florida. So I contacted in April. I messaged a friend I have down there who has long-term and short-term stays. And I basically asked if they had one available that would take a dog because I have moose. And like that was after I had moved out of the house that I owned with my ex. I was planning on moving down to Florida or California. And the way that I decided this, if you will, or these 2 places was I Googled where the beach volleyball scene was big because, I think one of the people that I've been following recently who has been posting a lot of really good stuff about this because I see myself in her story was Sophia Bush. I talked about this in a couple episodes ago. I definitely see my story in her story. So the stuff that she posted something yesterday and that's why I'm bringing it up. It's like she posted, there was a lot of assumptions, people saying things, people assuming things when I moved and when I wasn't moving and when I was at my parents' house. And, there are things that I never put public. I'm not trying to be like, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. I'm not trying to be, not give you all the details because I don't want to, but I don't want to, like, it doesn't fucking matter. But regardless, when I was deciding where I was going to move, I wanted to do something that I hadn't done and hadn't been able to do since I was in high school. Like I had lived where I didn't want to live for 10 years. I did not plan on being in New Hampshire at all in my life. My ex's family lived there and I didn't want to live there. I had been back and forth for 10 years, like I said, living there permanently for probably 3-4 years. And when you live there, there's nothing, I say this very gently because I understand there's things to do, but it's also winter. I hate winter. I couldn't do what I wanted to do. Recreational activities are pretty limited. And it just didn't feel like home, right? Like I think anybody who has been through that, like they can feel that somewhere doesn't feel like home. So I wanted to be somewhere where I could just go do recreational things that were fun with other people. And so I was like, I like beach volleyball. I've been to California. I visited Shantae before. I liked beach volleyball. I was like, I want to play that. Like, that sounds fun. And it's a nice sport. People are nice in beach volleyball. So I looked up those 2 places and one was St. Pete in Florida, and obviously Manhattan Beach, because Manhattan Beach is the home of beach volleyball. So I was deciding between those two places. The person I contacted did not have places that could take moose. And I remember searching for apartments down there that would take a dog, very far and few between. And then I decided to do the California move. So I will say, like, it wasn't hard to move. It wasn't hard to, I should say this very, very differently. I will tell you that it's hard to leave a situation. And this is why I brought up Sophia Bush. Like, she posted something yesterday that basically said, like, it's not easy to just decide that after something has drained the way that she worded it was just so good. It was like, I screenshotted it. She said, start imagining that many women who worked up the courage to do these things are the ones who made everything look easy until it almost broke them. So she said, start being proud of women who leave bad situations, abusive relationships, or lives that reduce them to the point that they feel like theirs are ending. And like, I have no comment on any of these things except for the fact that I'm like, it's not, the reason I say that is like, I'm not saying it was easy to change my whole life. What I'm saying is that eventually you get to a point where you realize that that's the only option. Like I literally, I don't want to say it was easy. It wasn't easy. It was just one of those things that I had to do. And like, I have the personality when I know that I have to do something, I'll do it. I think that if you get too wrapped up in like beating yourself up about anything or thinking about all the impossibilities or the hard things that are going to happen, like, of course it's going to be hard, but, I didn't have that mentality. I was like, I have to do this. This is where I'm at. Like, this is what makes the most sense for my life. I am putting myself first, and that happened. And so I was deciding between those two places, and then I made my decision. And I would say it wasn't hard. I had I had one U-Haul box. I had a very small U-Haul box. It shipped across the country. Otherwise, drove across the country with Shantae. And yeah, it wasn't hard to make it happen. It was one of those things where, like I said, once you decide you have to do something, you do it. If that's your personality, I think it's easy to not, and it's easy to stay in things, and it's easy to not take that step. But I will say that, looking back, it was it was the best decision that I've made. And, obviously I've spoke about it so many times about how grateful I am for where I'm at in life right now and where that move took me. But the reason I chuckle about it is because I'm like, I was actually deciding between two different places, which is, humorous only because I don't think that was the, public assumption, which is fine. I don't care. But I think this question was more or less like, what made you decide to come here? And also, what was the push? Well, the push was that I got divorced, and I was living with my parents. And after deciding between St. Pete and basically Redondo or Southern California, I was like, well, I'm familiar with SoCal. I like SoCal. I'm going to go there. So, yeah, I think that was the biggest deal as far as this makes the most sense for me. So yeah, I feel like hopefully that answered the question, but I will say that it's one of those things where I'm like, people ask me how hard it was to move. I'm like, this is so personalized. It could be so difficult for you to move across the country if you make it hard. I don't know, right? I don't take my opinion for what it would mean for you, but anyway. And the second one that I'm going to answer today, I need to look and see what time we're at. We're already at 30 minutes. Look at us go. The other question that I was going to answer came in, and she was like, I don't know if you feel comfortable answering this, and I was like, I am happy to answer. So she asked, how, I want to make sure I pull this directly as well too, because I don't want to skew what she said. And I thought it was a really good question. Let's see here. Where is she? I'm looking it up. Okay. She said, my God, there it is. She said, I'm looking. There. I've always wondered how you've made peace with not having kids. I always say this, like, I don't want kids. The reason why I've made peace with it is because there was a time in my life where I was like, maybe it's a possibility and like, maybe I would want this. But I was very quickly deterred and decided that I did not want that when everyone else went first. I'm not made for it. I don't think that I don't want the life that you have to essentially have in order to have kids. I think moms are amazing. I think that anyone who has kids, I watch them and I'm like, I could never do what you do. Truly, like I genuinely know that I'm not built for it. I think one of the biggest things is one of my other really, really good friends, she doesn't want kids. And so we kind of have that, we chat back and forth about it, because eventually what's going to end up happening within our friend group, we have a group of us, and eventually what's going to end up happening is we're going to be the only two without kids. And, sometimes the only thing that I used to hear all the time is like, who's going to take care of you when you're older? And I'm like, that seems so ridiculous to have a child just so that they'll take care of me when I get older. But I digress. For me, I'm like, I just don't want the lifestyle that comes with it. And it's just a personal thing. I say this knowing that I'm young, so I could still like do all the things if I wanted to. But after watching everyone else do it in my life, I know that it's not something that I want. The responsibility that comes with it, the emotions that come with it, it's incredible that there are people like, I think about my best friend, and she's happy. She is the happiest she's ever been being a mom. And I'm like, you are meant to do this. I am so proud of you. I love this for you. I just don't think that is, I do not think, I know that is not something that I would want. And knowing that, I think, is very powerful, because people would oftentimes say, well, how do you know you're only X, Y, and Z years old? I'm like, I'm not stupid. Like, I can tell that this is not something that I want. I was a pediatric PT. I love kids. I love working with kids, but I don't want the responsibility of having my own, and the emotional distress, like I said. And, today's world is really scary. And honestly, like, a lot of it is the fact that I like that I can have my schedule, and it revolves around me. And I'm not going to say who it was, but I used to hear a lot that made me selfish. And they said that you're very selfish to say that you want your life to revolve around you. And I'm like, okay, yes, I am selfish. Yes. I think that, like I said, I just don't want the responsibility. I really never did. And I feel like if I were to, the consideration for it was only because there was so much external pressure to do it. And like, when you're around, when your friends start having kids, when all the people start having kids, you become like the friend that doesn't have kids, and everyone has get-togethers, and you're like the one that doesn't have one. And it's not like, I don't feel any sort of way about it, like, oh, I should have one. But when I was going through like, oh, do I not, in like my mid-20s, it was more or less because of that. Like, it felt like an external pressure and an expectation. And, quite frankly, fuck that. I think that more people, there are accounts all about this, about choosing not to have kids and like a childless life. And I think that if we start talking more openly about it with people, you will find that there are people who also feel the same way. And like I said, this is not me saying that I think that it's better to not have kids. I just know that for me personally, I am not the one. It's not meant for me. I don't want to do it. I love other people's kids so much, and I love watching everyone who's parent. Like, I love watching my best friend be a mom, and she is the greatest mom, and she's so happy, and watching her do all that, and watching moms just be superheroes. I commend them. I definitely just know that it's not built for me. And so it was never like coming to terms with it. It was more or less just knowing that that's not what I want. I am selfish. It's just not something that I ever wanted. And truthfully, I think I'm very lucky that everyone went before me, and that I went through a transitional period in my life where my opinion became what I listened to, or my brain became what I listened to, and not the external pressure and the external opinions of people. Because I think that if I had a personality that could easily be swayed, I think I would have potentially had the opportunity to be swayed to do that. without listening to my own inner voice first, which, you know, like I said, I'm very lucky to have gone through that in like my late 20s, where I was like, no, I can decide. It's my body. It's my life. It's my opinion, my feelings. I think I'm very lucky to have that experience and to be able to make that decision. But yeah, I think coming to terms with it is just not the right word for me. It's more or less just, I knew that it wasn't meant for me. I didn't want my life to look like that. I like the way that my life is without kids, and watching my best friends and my brother be parents. I look up to them. I think they're amazing. They're incredible. I just know that it's not for me. And I like being the cool aunt. I'm going to be the aunt, however you pronounce it, aunt that, you know, gets my nephews and nieces all the things, because that's what I love to do. So yeah, I think it's a great question. And like I said, there are tons of Instagram accounts that talk about this. There was one that I can't remember off the top of my head, the one that I started following a couple years ago, but there are accounts that talk about this, because it's hard to live in a world where you are the oddball out, I guess. But yeah, that's it. I feel like I could go on and on and on and on and on and babble about this forever, but I don't feel any sort of way about it. I don't feel like I'm missing out. I think that was another thing someone said to me once, like, don't you feel like you're missing out on like what your body's meant to do? I'm like, no, actually I don't. No. Like, I look at my best friend and I'm like, you are incredible. Good for you, not for me. Yeah, I guess that's it. I feel like it's such like a loaded question to end on. But that's really the long and the short of why or how I've made that decision. So yeah. All right. I'm going to wrap this up. That's all I've got for you on my list. I do have more questions that came in, but I decided to pull a couple because we're clearly 36 minutes in. This is a problem. But let me know what comes up, any questions you have, and I'd be happy to answer. But otherwise, I thank you so much for listening, and I will catch you next time.